Salam and welcome back to SomaliDispatch.com's YouTube channel. My name is Abdul Qadir Guled. Last Tuesday, a group of 20 UK MPs led by Gavin Williamson tabled a motion to debate Somaliland's recognition. The multi-party group of MPs highlighted the democratic achievement that Somaliland made over the last 30 years and its need for recognition. To discuss the debate and further efforts needed, we contacted Dr. Jama Muse Jama, the director of Hargeisa Cultural Centre. Dr. Jama was in London for the occasion and joined us from there. So Dr. Jama Muse Jama, welcome back. And it's great to have you back on the platform and have you shed some light on the debates, the historic debates that took place this week at the House of Commons in the UK as it relates to Somaliland's independence. Firstly, if you don't mind, please give us your reaction of what transpired that day at the UK Parliament.
Thank you so much, Abdul Qadir. It's always a pleasure, and thank you for having me again and to join this platform, which is most needed, and thank you for having me. Well, this is really an interesting time for Somaliland, and specifically what happened is a bit different of what we have seen so far. And for that reason, we need to understand how probably you would explain, people know how the House of Commons work, but what is important is to just to touch where, for instance, Honorable Gavin Williamson is coming from, in a sense of what was the reason behind this calling for debate, and therefore the initiative, the leadership, the consistency and the commitment of MP Williamson really is extremely important in this debate and should be recognized. However, this was not just a debate, in my view, call it by a single member, but it was a well-organized, well-coordinated one that brought the discussion into another level. Therefore, we need to understand probably who was involved in this task to make really so impactful. One of the groups that I think worth to mention is APPG, Somaliland APPG, which is all-party parliamentary group, and in this case for Somaliland, that has been established for the first time sometime in November 2016 with the aim, and I quote, to promote understanding and the support of Somaliland's achievement in peace, in building peace, democratic governance, and as a sovereign state in the Horn of Africa. And I underline the word sovereign state, that there is a group in the parliament who, since 2016, in one way or other, were working behind the scenes to just promote within the parliament and for Somaliland as a sovereign state. And that among the other things that I remember during the registration back in 2016, including championing for the need for continued UK support and UK assistance for Somaliland development. So I think that's one group that sort of has been, of course, it's an informal cross-party group formed by MPs and members of the House of Lords who share a common interest and promote the interest, in this case for Somaliland, but has no formal power or status in the parliament. And they were all present, almost all present, those who are still parliamentarians. Cliff Bettis from Sheffield, Stephen Dodd from Cardiff, Kerry Mackert from Bristol, Matthew Ford, Rad Jones. Those people who are part of that APPG supported and backed the wonderful work that MP Williamson has done. So that's one group to mention. In my opinion, another second group, which was really fundamental, and we have to recognize their incredible contribution, is the Somalilanders in the UK, or British Somalilanders, or Somaliland community, who in a so short time campaigned and contacted their MPs, but also worked hard in the social media to make the case so vivid and so timely. So they showed that their voice counts in this country, and that's because of the unity this fund that really came. The third group and final group that need to be mentioned is the Somaliland government, represented by its permanent resident office here in London, who did a marvelous job, honestly, by contacting and promoting and the backing up of the debate. And when I say the government, I don't mean only the executive, because of we all remember and we were all pleased, for instance, by swift reaction from the Somaliland House of Representatives, who reacted positively, and on behalf of the people of Somaliland, thanked the UK MPs who initiated the debate. So I think this is these three groups, in one way or other, make a unique for this debate. And there are many other questions to happen, including what happened in the House. But I would say the reaction and my reaction of many Somalilanders, people who probably stay in both worlds, in the global South and global North, and know what's going on, it was an important and extremely fundamental step forward for Somaliland's desire for international recognition. Of course, it's not the end of the journey. It's not even the start, because of this work has been done for the last 30 years, but definitely it's a major step forward.
Right. And much has been said among Somalis and others, the importance of what the MPs were speaking to, which is Somaliland to regain its independence. And it's not a de facto or someone that's trying to splinter off, but spoke to the history of the two Somali regions uniting under the Republic of Somalia and what transpired since. A lot of Somalis are conflicted. A lot of analysts are conflicted. Some are pro, of course, and some others are not. But the need for this step, for someone who lives on both worlds, as you said, can you speak to the dire need or the basic need this step would mean for the average Somalilander?
First to correct what has before, it was not Republic of Somalia, but was a Somali Republic. Okay. Just to make the name correct. But to come back to your important question, this is important because of, honestly, there has not been anything new that has been said. The parliament said the reality on the ground for what Somalilanders were saying for the last 30 years, but in another voice, in a microphone that's stronger than us, than Somalilanders, to tell to the world the reality on the ground. So for that reason, it's fundamental. For the second reason that it's fundamental, this is, at the end of the day, we are talking one of the eldest parliaments in the world and one of the most influential parliaments of the world. So having a debate on Somaliland recognition, international recognition for Somaliland, is something so fundamental and so important. So if we look what happened in the House, you understand why this is so fundamental and why this is so new, if you want, despite what they have said has been something proved and verified, and for the last 30 years, the Somalilanders were loudly saying. I think it was a real, genuine debate in which parliamentarians, with enthusiasm, thoughtfulness, and excellent interventions based on facts, and that's another thing that makes really different, shaped the speech. It is not common to be able to involve such many MPs. There were more than 20 MPs who joined the debate and echoed Honorable Gavin Williamson's strong message. So I think that was the reason why it was really, really important. The core and central message was not only the fact that Somaliland recognition has proven and as a solid legal basis, but that is it is among the legitimate basis for human rights. and that the world owes to Somaliland respect for that fundamental human right. So that's another core message that came out. But also they discussed it, they were talking with the proven facts that how Somaliland is a reliable, credible, and democratic partner with which the UK can do business with. So this is a fundamental key point that is new, not because of Somaliland deserve, not only Somaliland deserve to have the international recognition, but this is the world that understood that this is the only partner, credible partner, democratic partner in a tumultuous region to make business with. And this is a key point because of it is an invitation to the British business and investors to engage with Somaliland, to put their money where they are sure they can make mutual profit and beneficial result for the UK and for Somaliland. And this should be linked to the recent CDC group in investment on Berp report via TP World, for instance. So that the message was beyond only the fact that Somaliland has the right to demand international recognition, but that the UK obliged to do the lion's share in this activity. Finally, they talked about how fundamental the relationship between the United Kingdom and Somaliland Republic of Somaliland is, not only the historical one that many people easily quote, but the fact that we share a future together. Also, since many British Somalilanders today are rewriting the history of this relationship, of course, in a positive chapter. So Somaliland, they told to the world, is the only stable and credible spot in the turbulent, unstable, wider Horn of Africa region, and it is located, as usual, in an incredible strategic place for the Red Sea and for the Bab el-Mandeb passage. So elements were really supporting each other. Of course, we also need to recall the non-positive reaction of the Foreign Office, for example, which obviously misinformed on the issue of the recognition of Somaliland that has been strongly rejected by the parliamentarians, reminding that such a comment from the junior minister is not represented by the government sentiment. And I'm quoting what MP Gavin Williamson has said. So we should not really underestimate this reaction of the Foreign Office, and Somaliland government needs really to work on this and to correct the source.
Right. Speaking to the involvement of the Somaliland government, as it was specifically the executive, notably their role was absent. They weren't visibly seen. What is there to do in that regard for them, if because without a backing of the government on this, the push, regardless the three groups that you highlighted, is not going to go far enough. You need that governmental push. The missing of their involvement, what does that say?
I think it is of course, the shortcomings that we as a Somalilanders to come up with some solutions. Definitely, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has done what we have seen for the last few years, but most importantly for the last month is there are big achievements forward, but that's not enough. This was definitely the call came from the British, the UK parliamentarians, but it was supported by the Somaliland community strongly. From it is wider sense of the meaning of the word has been supported. The government, when it comes to the office here, they worked with the community and spread the word. But definitely, it's an area that we have to improve. And I want to recall the fact that. For instance, the budget of this year has been reduced when it comes to the international
by 50%.
recognition. And that's a really sad thing that we have to register, because of Somaliland recognition is so fundamental. and for every government, the current one led by President Muse and the future governments and previous governments had to put in the highest priority, and that was not happening in the past. So this proves that definitely we need to improve in certain areas, but this is a big achievement. I think this is one of the most successful works that has been done recently that we need to build on it when it comes to the recognition. So we need to avoid to, how I can say, downgrade, as unfortunately someone who, of course, again, Somaliland is doing for the last few hours. This was a huge achievement on which we have to build on, and we have to remember that it has a connections from things, something else that's happening, and probably we will talk a later point. But for me, there are key points, at least one or two or three key points as a takeaway of the conversation that happened. The first thing, which is really, really fundamental, is that the counterpoints against the Somaliland recognition were preemptively and comprehensively prepared by the MPs. So they were unequivocally and overwhelmingly got the support of their colleagues. So this work done, of course, is supported by Somaliland communities, voice to call for their MPs should not be underestimated. But that is, for me, one fundamental takeaway of the discussion. The second point is that the idea that recognizing Somaliland would destabilize, for example, Somalia, the neighborhood country, or the negotiations with the Somalia are a viable route to recognition was resoundingly challenged. And this has been challenged by the parliamentarians themselves, proving that this is not necessary. There is no connection at all to get Somaliland recognition to have definitely negotiation with Somalia. And the second point linked to that is definitely they prove it, and that is what we were saying for a long time, that this will not destabilize Somalia, but it will make a strong case of peaceful and stable Horn of Africa region. I mean, the recognition of Somaliland. The last point that's a really takeaway, and that, as I mentioned it before, was the overall acknowledgement that the British companies could expand into the fast-growing market in a sort of a post-Brexit world. Somaliland is well-positioned to unlock, for example, UK-African trade, and Somaliland could be a key, particularly through the Somaliland's Berbera port, a growing, as you know, as everyone knows, a growing trade and logistics hub that has attracted investment from DB World and many other, including CBC Group. So I think those key points is something that we need as a Somalilanders to sell. And our government needs to really move fast, building on this success.
Right.
Not starting the wheels, but building on this important step.
Right. And to build on this success, as you said, one of the things needed to be done is the few areas where the MP, one of the MPs spoke to, which is the improvement of inclusivity in the electoral process and the political process in Somaliland, and to perhaps deal with some governance issues that Somaliland has. What do you think that would do in terms of advancing this argument and the progress of Somaliland?
I think that are all valid points, but I always refuse to, when the things that Somalilanders are doing is linked for the seek for recognition. Somaliland is a democratic country, and they are doing democracy and practicing democracy not to get the international community recognition, but first and most importantly for its own sake for the future generation of Somaliland. So what you have said is absolutely true. We need to improve. We had a parliament that has no one single woman sitting in the parliament, and that's a major weak point that we have to improve, but not for getting international recognition, but for our future, for our young people, for our future generations. We need to fix these weaknesses, these problems that we have. Many other issues in a society, in a government that's growing, including in institutions, strong institutional building, is something that we need. But and that improvement, whether or not be recognized in Somaliland, should do. And we don't want to, and I really don't want to link the recognition with the improvement of what we are already doing for our own sake. So I agree completely with you and the parliamentarians who mentioned it in the areas that we have to improve, but not for the recognition, for the sake of Somaliland, for the future of Somaliland, for the fact that Somalilanders decided to take this path to improve and to champion for democracy and for the human rights, and most importantly, to be a tolerant society that needs to be built in blocks. And those blocks, there are some of them that is still missing, as the one that I have mentioned, which is the political participation and inclusiveness when it comes, for example, the women case. So in my opinion, there are many areas that as a move of taking of what happened in the areas that we have to move exist. In my opinion, there are at least 3 or 4 areas that we need to we as a Somalilanders, as a Somaliland government, as a Somaliland citizens, as also concerned Somalilanders. I think this is something that we have to avoid, as I said initially, to downgrade. I'm not sure in the history of the Commons if there has been such an engaging debate on Somaliland issue. Definitely for the last 3 decades that I was involved in these activities, it didn't happen, such a magnitude. So I saw many people obviously anti-Somaliland who were trying to downgrade what happened. So lest we do that. We need, as I said initially, to build on this momentum by first recognizing that this is not an isolated accident, but it is linked to the great coordinated move that the Somaliland people were doing recently. And with the head of Somaliland executive, including the excellent work done by the Somaliland representative in the USA, for example, and the interest that Americans is showing to engage properly with Somaliland is a work that has been done that office that should be really, really recognized. I mean, Ambassador Bashir Got and his office, the work that they have done in the States. This is, of course, has led the recent visit of the staff of the Senate of the House. So this is not an isolated case. This is one of those things that, good things that are happening. The second point is we have to link to the new conversation that just restarted between the Somaliland and Ethiopian governments and the visit of the presidential delegation of these days in Addis Ababa, which is another important signal. So I am putting those signals together in order to define where we as a Somalilanders need to move. Recognizing that this was not a single accident case that happened. We need, and this is the important thing, to call for all Somalilanders in the diaspora of the other countries, whether they are in Canada, whether they are in Sweden, whether they are in Italy, whether they are somewhere else, to call and do similar steps in a coordinated way within their countries, while the mood is in the right direction. So that is something we need to do.
Right.
In conclusion about what should be done, and then I will be passing to you back to you, to the mic. I think there is a fundamental thing that really made difference, and probably people didn't capture. Those MPs who visited Somaliland had a strong voice, convincing and committed to speak to speak out on things that they know better than others. Gavin Williamson himself, Stephen Doty, and those people who visited recently Somaliland, they spoke with facts. There is really, really important, this is a really important fact, and a way to engage people. And this is a message for the Somaliland government, for Somalilanders, is that we have, as we say, itus or itapsi, to show me with facts. I think Somaliland showed them with facts, and they voiced what Somaliland did show them. Those people who went to visit to Berbera, to Las Gale, to the market in Hargeisa, that walked down in the city without having anyone who was, a bodyguard or something like that, they spoke with heart and their eyes on what they have seen. So that was really, really important. What we have to work in a conclusion on that is, in order to really show that credible partner we are, reliable to invest in together we are, fostering democratic values together we are. In order to work really for a better world for tomorrow, we should bring people to Somaliland physically to see. So this is a message. This is a message for Somaliland government and for Somalilanders, and also for you people who are truly working in the media and taking the message to tell to the world and bring the people to Somaliland so they can see what's going on.
And finally, one last question. You spoke to what it means and what it meant for the MPs and Somalilanders, what happened in one of the oldest parliament in the world. What does it mean for the rest of Somalis in the Horn of Africa and in the West and in the diaspora to see 20 MPs from the UK taunting and talking about and are impressed with the achievements Somaliland gained over the 30 years?
Somaliland has been a stable and peaceful democratic country in the Horn of Africa for 30 years. And Somalis and other people who live in the Horn of Africa know that. It has a democratically elected government with a relatively effective and developing institutions. Somaliland has shown itself to be responsible and a mature member of the international community and has a good relations with the neighboring countries in East Africa. Somaliland also cooperates comprehensively with the international community on, for example, counterterrorism, anti-piracy, maritime security, and so on. So Somaliland, the message is what's for the other Somali people, what are the other East African sisters and brothers who are living in the wider region of East Africa. Somaliland for the past 30 years has therefore been an anchor for stability. It plays a key role in securing its 850-kilometer Gulf of Aden coastline along key maritime routes critical to Africa, to East Africa, to the landlocked Africa, and to the global trade. This is critical to the international logistics and supply chain. This has been much to the benefit of Africa, and that's what it means, and that's what they have to know. This has been much to the benefit of Africa and to indeed to the world. So recognizing Somaliland now would cement this anchor of peace, stability, and security in a strategically important region. That message that we were saying loudly for 30 years has been said now by someone who has a more powerful microphone than us, Somalilanders. And of course, it is amplified. And that is what this means and should mean to the people in the East Africa.
I thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for joining us and making the time to talk to us and explain, what this means, broadly speaking and specifically speaking as well. Thank you so much and have a great night. And hopefully we'll talk more on other subjects in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And it was a pleasure to, as usual, speak to you.